Ever feel like you're stuck spinning your wheels on your business, working harder, but never quite gaining traction on the big stuff? If you've ever said, I just don't have time for that project, which I know I have, or caught yourself stuck in procrastination mode, today's episode is going to be a great one for you. I am joined by productivity expert Julie Miller Davis, who helps high achieving business owners break through overwhelm and finally get the important things done. We are talking about the real reasons business owners get stuck, how to make space for big projects even in a packed week, and a simple way to beat procrastination and focus on what makes the needle move. Plus, Julie shares a 5-minute daily tool that can help you gain traction this week. Let's dive in. Struggling to turn website traffic into real sales? You're not alone, and you don't have to figure it out all yourself. Welcome to Smarter Online Business, the podcast for course creators, coaches, and e-commerce entrepreneurs who want their websites to convert visitors into buyers without the tech overwhelm. I'm your host, Carrie Saunders, a website strategist and conversion expert with over 20 years of experience. Each episode delivers simple, proven strategies to help you generate more revenue and make your website your smartest sales tool. Welcome back to the show. And today we have a special guest with us, and her name is Julie Miller Davis. She is a productivity coach, and her expertise is helping business owners get unstuck with their problems and anything within their business. So, welcome to our podcast today, Julie.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Carrie.
So, I just gave like a really short brief of who you are and what you do, but I know there's a lot more to you. Could you give us a little bit more information about who you are, who you serve, and how you help others?
Sure. So, my business is JMD Productivity Training. So, I'm a productivity and results expert. So, I work with entrepreneurs to help them, number one, stop juggling everything and wearing all the hats so they can actually prioritize the things that matter and will cause them massive growth. And that also means that I'm working on strategic planning and implementation. And because a lot of times we plan, but we don't implement, or we have intentions and we're not getting intentional. So that is what I do. And it's not your back end systems, it's really your front end habits and patterns and how you are approaching your day, your goals, and what you want out of your business without spending more time on your business, because that's the fear, right? Is that if I do that, I've already got all this stuff on my plate and now I'm not going to have time to for my life and my family and my friends and all the things, and that is the exact opposite of what happens.
I really love that because like I can so relate as a business owner of over 20 some years, almost 23 now. I feel like I get in that loop of the ideas and not getting the implementation done because I'm so busy doing all the other things. I love how you look at it from a perspective of not adding more to a business owner's plate or CEO's plate, but how do we relieve them of this work by giving them a great plan of action and getting the things done and getting unstuck. So speaking of getting unstuck, like, and I know that, I mean, I feel like a lot of what you're going to tell me today is going to help me as well. I'm sure many of our listeners, but I do find that I have lots of roadblocks sometimes. So what do you see as the biggest roadblock for business owners to grow? I feel like sometimes it's me, but I'd love to hear what you see on your
Mhm.
end.
Well, it's 100% the business owner is one of the biggest blocks because we're choosing or deciding for whatever reason that like we can't delegate and that makes you the bottleneck. We don't have time to do that big idea that we know could change everything in the business. We like it's and delegation a lot of times has to do with time. So there's a lot of issues that have to do with time. And it all comes down to choices that we're making. We're letting other people's agendas run our calendar or our day. We're letting ourselves hijack what our intentions were for the day. We're 100% in our way. So it's getting super intentional about these are things that I could get off my plate. And I want you all to know delegation doesn't have to cost a lot of money. Um, and it can save you so much time and open up so much space that then you can get to the things that you know are going to grow you. And the other thing is, I think so many times, Carrie, we are so mired in our business that we can't, like our nose is right up against a tree in the forest, right? So we can't see the path. And we have to be able to take that step back and have that 30,000 foot view. And sometimes it takes a coach or it takes somebody to start asking you questions to get you to think about your business differently because we are creatures of habit. We do things how we do them, right?
I can so relate to especially that last point because I know I can help businesses so much easier than I can help myself because we do like, technical strategy for other businesses and implementation of website programming and all kinds of crazy stuff. And I'm so much better at helping advise somebody else than I am to advise my own self on what's the best next steps. And let's go back to the delegation too, because I feel like, you know, other people might be like me where they delegate some, but not all. What are those signals that should help you understand, okay, this task should be delegated? Is there some signs or signals that can tell us that, we shouldn't be doing this task anymore? We should look to delegate this.
I have some I would call them delegation like rules.
Mhm.
So first and foremost, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. Like you don't have to delegate everything or you can dabble in it a little bit. My delegation journey was I initially hired a gal that worked on like I would buy a bundle of hours from her and then she would work through those hours and it was like I was figuring out what I could delegate because some of you are like, I know I need to delegate, but I don't even know where to start. So if you can find someone that I would pay her like, I don't know, a few $100 and she would work through that money because I knew I didn't need someone yet. My business was pretty small, was new. But I needed somebody to do some of the things like, can you get in my CRM? Can you make this thing on Canva that I'm going to take 4 hours to do that you'll probably take 15 minutes to do? So that's one thing. Like, is someone going to do something faster than you can because it's in their area of expertise or skills that's not in yours? Like you do websites and stuff. I have no business being in my website. I have never been in the back end. I have no desire to go there. My web people would probably freak out if I ever went in there because goodness knows what's going to happen, right? I don't know that. That's not my area. I always say that's not my department. So, the other piece is asking yourself, is this something that only I can do? Am I the only one that can, like, I'm the only one that can do the podcast interview, but I wasn't the only one. My assistant filled out a lot of the assets that you needed from us. She did that, not me. She asked me what I wanted to do, what gift I wanted to give today. And, we went back and forth, but I didn't fill out all the forms. Because again, I'm spending time doing the things that are gonna meeting people and networking and teaching my courses and all of that. So that's one thing that's really important is figuring out what are the things that only you can do and what could someone else do. And also that you don't have to like delegate it all at first. And then my rules of 80 are if someone can do it 80% as well as you can, it's delegable. It is. Because 80% as well as you, in many cases, most cases, is good enough. And the other piece is that we also don't have to hand off the whole of something. If someone could do 80% of it and we do 20, it's delegate. Like, what if that's 80% time and now you're doing 20%. So you either do the front or the back 20 and they do the rest, the 80. How much time does that save you? It's getting it out of your head or hands and into someone else's, which is so freeing.
I like those strategies of the 80/20, and this kind of not ever been something I've heard anybody say. Like it is something I do in some of my areas of our businesses. I will have the ideas and then I will, so I'll do like the 20% of the ideation and then I'll give it to one of our staff members for the implementation. But I don't think I've ever heard anybody articulate that. And I think that is a great different way to look at it that some people might not be thinking about, like myself. I kind of naturally do that sometimes, but to have that put into words and have it permission to, you don't have to step all the way out of it. You could do the 20% that you need to do, or that that would make you more comfortable, and have somebody else do the other implementation. So I think that's a really great key for our listeners here, to give them that permission to do it that way.
Yeah. And it gives you it still keeps your fingers on the pulse of whatever you're delegating. I had a client who I still have her, but she when she first we first started talking about delegation, because I a lot of my clients, we that's what we do. We get them to the point of like, now it's time to offload some stuff. Um and she takes so much of what I teach, so much of what I teach is applicable, everywhere. So she was having company for like a big holiday dinner with family and everything. And her husband was like, I'll or she said, "Can you clean up the house and I gotta go shopping or whatever." And she came home and like the dishes were done, but they weren't put away. The vacuuming and stuff was done, but the vacuum was sitting there. And she started getting like mad, right? Because it wasn't done. And she was like, "Wait, wait, wait, wait. What did Julie say? He just did 80%. All I have to do is put away the dishes, and all I have to do is put away the vacuum." It totally changed her perspective on what happened, right? So, just a little, a little way for you guys to think about it in outside of your business, but it might also help you think about it inside of your business that way.
I love that. And I could just totally picture myself in that same situation, coming home and asking my husband to clean things up, and it's about 80% done.
Right?
But, he did do his effort, and, his best effort towards it, and, just didn't think about the other 20%, but that's okay. He did the 80%, that was probably the percent that you didn't really want to do anyway. So I love
Anyway.
that that story and perspective. So then let's talk about big ideas. So I have had lots of big ideas the past few years. We've been revamping our business and stuff like that. So when someone has a big idea or a big project, but they don't have the time to do it, kind of plays into this delegation part too, possibly. How do you help them get it done quickly and with low stress? Like, I feel like sometimes I get so stressed when I have this great idea, but it's kind of a big idea. There's so many moving parts. How do we help people get it done quickly?
That's such a great question. I would love for the listeners to think about something that you have been wanting to do or thinking about for a while. Like, I had a client who had been, she's a writing coach, and she had been wanting to implement a writer's workshop class where people like wrote their book in like a 5 month period. And she sat on that class for 3 years. 3 years. And when she started working with me and using, I'm gonna talk about it in just a second. We launched that course. She started working with me in March. We launched that course in June. Like, so it took her 3 years and 3 months, right? But with what I do with people, it took 3 months, right? Um, so here's the mistake that people make, Carrie, is they think if they start, they have to finish. Like, it's like, I got to spend a week making this thing so that it'll be ready to launch, or it'll be ready to go, or it'll be ready, whatever your word is. Um, and here's the truth of the matter. Our businesses, as Carrie, as you said, have many moving parts. And if we decide to create something new or launch a big project, or whatever it is, get it done, the rest of the business doesn't stop moving. So we have to figure out a way to integrate. And that comes from, I call it reverse chunking, and it's taking reverse engineering a step further. So a lot of you know reverse engineering, like what's the last step? What's the step before the last step? The step before that, the step before that, step before that. You're going to back it out so that you can think about all the steps. My reverse chunking method that we go through is you assign yourself a deadline. When do you want to have that done by? It doesn't matter if it's 30 days, 90 days, like it doesn't matter how long you give yourself, but you're going to set a deadline. And then each of those steps that you just reverse engineered, you're going to give each of those steps a deadline. And then you're going to create um, time in your calendar to work on each of the steps. So each of the deadlines goes in the calendar, and then each of the time to work on each step goes in the calendar. And then Carrie, like, time is fluid. So things take longer or shorter than we thought they would. So it's all adjustable. It doesn't have to be pressurized. It doesn't have to be a pressure cooker, but you're making progress that you weren't making before. And you guys, there's enough time. There's enough time. You have a 2 to 3 hours a week or whatever it's going to take to work on the thing. And it doesn't have to be done tomorrow. That's the permission that I want to give you all. Let's get started, get a deadline in there, and let's make it happen sooner rather than later.
Well, and I think when you have those deadlines of each of the different, chunks and steps, it helps you prioritize making that time in your week to get that thing done. And you feel less overwhelmed because you have a smaller project to get done in that time frame. So I love how you kind of reverse chunk that and help us look at each of the smaller deadlines to get us towards that big goal and that big deadline, because it can be overwhelming. And as you said, our business doesn't stop when we're building something new, especially when we already have an established business, or even if we don't have an established business and we're new to business, our lives and whatever we've been doing doesn't really stop when we're trying to build out this new thing. So I love how you broke that
Right.
down. Yeah,
Thank
into
you.
chunks for us with deadlines.
And it's like those mini, I call them mini deadlines to get you towards the big deadline. And those mini deadlines are like your signposts, your checkpoints, like you can actually see your progress. And so it's so much easier for us to wrap our head around the small pieces rather than the giant end product because um, our brains always want to take the easy way. Always. Even if we don't mind doing hard things in our lives, our brains want to they want to take the path of least resistance. So we're sitting down and gonna like hammer this thing out. Our brain's like, yeah, that seems really hard. So we're gonna find about 75 other things that we could do today and not that.
Yes, I could totally see myself doing that sometimes. And it's as somebody who's one that loves to get stuff done and be very productive, it can be very frustrating and very hard to receive within yourself. And when you're talking, it reminded me of something my youngest said. He's a bit wiser for his age. I feel like he was, I think, 16 or 17 when he said this, and he was like, "Mom, I find that when I'm working on a large project, if I stop where starting it back up is easy, I'm more likely to pick that project back up and keep going with it." So doing your little blocks, I feel like helps you start it at the next time you're working on it at an easier point because you're not looking at the big picture.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Smart, smart, smart kiddo.
He doesn't always apply his own advice, but he's definitely working on it. So, as a perfectionist and a recovering perfectionist, I know that procrastination is something that can come out of being a perfectionist as well. And I know that a lot of people will procrastinate these bigger tasks and the things that will really move the needle forward in their business. And it's something a lot of us struggle with. So, what are something that you can do to combat it and to get these important things done? Even sometimes when we chunk those tiny blocks, sometimes we still get stuck and kind of procrastinate. So how do we get beyond any procrastination hurdles we run into?
Yeah, procrastination is a tricky, sticky situation. Um, and we all do it. Everyone does it. Even, I'm a go-getter. I teach about all of this stuff and I still procrastinate the things that I I don't want to do, or I don't feel like doing, or whatever the reason is. And I have a whole course that I teach on procrastination. But um, James Clear wrote a book called Atomic Habits. Most people have read it at this point, but if you haven't, pick it up. And he talks about uh, getting started, or yeah, and he also talks about tiny wins. So the getting started piece is huge. And so when you're in that space of being really stuck around doing the thing, um, ask yourself, if I could do one thing today on this, one thing, what would I do? And answer that question and then do one thing. And what happens is you gain momentum. So that leads you to the next thing, the next thing. Like, and he uses the example of um I'm gonna train for a 5K. So if I could do one thing today to do that, what would it be? Well, I would need to put on my running shoes. So I'm gonna put on my running shoes. Okay, well, I have my shoes on. I may as well walk out the door, right? So it's like there's so much power in one thing, one thing, one thing leading to the next. So much power in the getting started. And the other piece is the tiny wins, which is like, what is some little celebration you could do when you engage in that task that day? And it needs to be something that you wouldn't normally do for yourself. And it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be huge thing at all. And there's all kinds of things that people do. It's like, oh, when I get that done, I get to do this other thing. I have one she's a graphic designer, and we've been working on this big project. And when she works on the big project, which doesn't have a lot of creativity, the creativity piece that she likes, then she gets to work on one of her graphic design. Like, it's another work thing, but that's her favorite part of work. So when she does this thing first thing in the morning, then she gets to jump into her graphic designs. So we create, you kind of have to, you have to kind of dig into your own joys and what are your favorite things, and that's what you get to do, the tiny win, right?
And that's something that I find myself doing many times is like in the morning, I'll put the things that I need to do, only I can do them, but don't really like doing them that much. And that way I can get to doing the other parts of the business that I like later on, which is networking or helping a client or something like that. So I try to do like the quotes and like the harder project management type of things in the morning. And then that lets me get to the creative work, creating podcast episodes, helping write a blog post with one of
Yeah.
my staff members or having a networking or podcast interview like this. So I can see that really does work. It is definitely something that I need to maybe be even a little more intentional about to help me do the things that need to be done by me. But I've been doing them for 27 years.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just not joyful anymore to do the
No.
things, you know, but
And
it's still
you
something necessary.
you bring up a super important point, Carrie, that I didn't say is we got to do the hard things first. We got to do the hard things first. I used to be I taught high school English for 17 years, and it's like when I would talk to my students about doing homework, they would not be getting whatever done. And I think about myself in high school. I loved English. I hated science. So, you do your English homework and everything first, and then it's late and you're tired, and now you got chemistry left. So, you guys, how much smarter would it have been to do the chemistry first and the English last? Because the English didn't take a lot of effort. I loved it, all of that. So, we've got to rip that band-aid off first. So, do the hardest, biggest things in the day first. when you have what Gary Keller in the one thing, he calls it your willpower. We have a finite amount of willpower. I will do it every day. And 2 o'clock in the afternoon is not when we have the most willpower. we have we have the most willpower at 8 or 9 in the morning, 10 in the morning, not at 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
And I think that's a good way to also self-assess. Like we need to figure out when is our willpower the strongest. Most people, it's definitely in the morning. I also have a second wind or willpower win in the afternoon because I'm a night owl. So like you've got to listen to your body, I feel like, in your brain. For me, doing a few mundane tasks that first hour gets my brain warmed up to do the things that I need to do hard first. And then I get to do some fun stuff, but then I got to layer in some more hard things and more fun stuff. That's kind of how my brain works. So I
Awesome.
feel like we got to listen to how does our brain work. And I don't know if you ever do this with your clients, but one thing I'll do sometimes is I will take a whole week and I'll literally write down what I do minute by minute
Yep.
every all day. Like, and it's like it's not really grueling, but it's a lot. It's a long list, right? It's a very, very long list. And every time I task switch and every time I do something new, and I don't know if you do that with your clients too, but it helps you be self-aware. What am I spending my time on? Where am I wasting my time? Where am I spinning my wheels? Where am I task switching too much? Do things like that with your clients?
I do. I do. One of the courses I teach is called Prioritize with Power, and the first thing I have them do is for 5 days, they have to write down. They don't have to write down minute by minute, but every hour they have to stop and write down what they just did that last hour, and they have to be super honest. I checked 5 text messages while I was trying to do this other thing. Oh, and I jumped over to my email 2 times. Oh, and I jumped up and I went and did the laundry. And like they start to realize how much they're interrupting themselves and task switching and how they said they were working for an hour.
Mhm.
But generally, um, we're working maybe 2/3 of an hour. Maybe we're actually working 2/3 of an hour. The stat is that we are wasting at least 20 minutes of every hour on not focusing, like on being on distractions. And so we don't know where we left off. We never come back to the thing that we were working on in the first place. All kinds of things take us away. And if you think about that, that's if you're working a traditional 40-hour work week, that's 2 hours a day. That's 10 hours. So that's like over an entire work day that you're missing out. So what would you do with a whole extra day in the week?
Yes, it's a bit mind-blowing when you really think about it. And I've seen statistics like that, and it's just like, wow. And then, I have employees too, and I'm thinking, wow, what if we all could be, more efficient and, how much further could we, help customers and move the business forward? And even myself, it's so easy to get pulled off onto something else. It could seem important too, but you're
Totally.
still getting pulled off, as you're still getting in that task switch. So I tend to try to batch similar tasks together to try to avoid that. Um,
Awesome.
but
Yeah.
it's hard to do sometimes, it's life. It's hard to do sometimes.
Yeah. Everything feels urgent, right? Everything feels urgent, but it's not. All things are not equal. And we are getting so entrained with technology to we're like Pavlov's dog. We're so entrained to like if the phone buzzes or dings or whatever happens, like we're entrained to jump and respond. We're so instant gratification, right? Instant response. And it's like, I used to only be able to answer the phone when I was near a phone that was plugged
Right.
in. And people survived. People were fine. So it's those boundaries that have gotten more and more infringed upon, and the boundaries are less and less clear, and everything feels urgent.
It totally does. And it can be hard on our systems and hard on our stress systems.
Yeah.
And And so you have let me know that you have a daily productivity planner. I feel like this is a great way to lead into this freebie that you have because
Ah,
we want to have our days effective. I mean, we don't want to be working ourselves to the bone. Obviously, we want to take the breaks when it makes sense, but we also want to make sure we're being very effective with our businesses. And you have a daily productivity planner. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
yeah. So we all have a calendar that has appointments on it. And most of you, I would say 90 some odd percent of you have task lists as well that are like amendments and addendums to the calendar. And so my daily productivity planner is the amendment to your calendar. So it's what is my brain dump for the day? What are the I call them the big three, my things that are the things that only I can do that are not events in the calendar that I need to get done. And then there's some other things on there that help with like what are the non-negotiables and what is I have a box called awesome. I'm looking at it right now. Called awesome stuff. I love the word awesome, and I just think that we have to notice the small things that are cool that happen to us throughout a day. Um, they don't have to be giant, but sometimes we take for granted some cool stuff that happens during the day. And some people love this thing because then you take your big three and you look at your calendar and you're like, what time am I doing this? And you actually put them into the calendar. Like number one might be done at 10:30, and number two might be done at 1, and number three might be done at 3:30. Like they don't have to be done in the same block, but it really helps you get your day in order and your mind like dumped out so that you can take advantage of and make the most out of your day.
That sounds like a really great resource to really focus on those needle moving activities. And
Yes.
we will be sure to have that linked in the show notes. So make sure you
Thank
visit
you.
our show notes at smarteronlinebusiness.com so that you can get that from her. So w- to wrap up, is there any other advice, Julie, that you would like to give us to just help us be more productive or move our business forward, or just any takeaway that you think that we should wrap up with?
Yeah, I actually think that the best thing that you can do is not hit the ground running any given day. Take 5 to 10 minutes, maybe with your cup of coffee, maybe while your coffee is brewing or whatever. 5 to 10 minutes and just look at your day so that you aren't so scattered and you're not doing anything with any intention. I think that the worst thing that we do is go through a day with intentions. I said it earlier without getting intentional. And that 5 to 10 minutes helps you just like focus in, get intentional. You know what you're going to get done, you know how you're going to get it done. And now you have a better ability to hold boundaries and to get those things done and not at the end of the day say, I was so busy and I have no idea what I did. So take those 5 to 10 minutes and just hone your day.
That's great advice. There's nothing worse, I feel like, than ending your day and wondering where it all went and not being able to really point to those needle moving activities because you were just too reactive and you didn't take that 5 or 10 minutes to plan out the rest of your day.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on our show, Julie. I so enjoyed this conversation. I know that it's going to definitely help me, and I'm sure our listeners will enjoy it too. So, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Carrie. I really appreciate it.
I so love this conversation with Julie, and I hope it gave you the clarity or kickstart you need to move forward on your next level idea or project. If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and start making intentional progress, Julie's free daily productivity planner is a must have. It just takes 5 minutes a day. It's designed to help you prioritize the right things so you can grow your business without burnout. You can grab it at our show notes or at smarteronlinebusiness.com. Just search for Julie Miller Davis there. Thanks for listening to our podcast, and we will see you next time.